Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, February 28th, 2018 to order. Can we have a roll call, please, Mr. Alexandrovich?
Yes. Mr. Gamble is excused. Mrs. Witkowski.
Here.
Mr. Nielsen.
Here.
Mrs. Evans.
Here.
Mr. Lewis.
Here.
Mrs. Larson.
Here.
And I am here.
Thank you. The meeting has been properly posted. Please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Item 3, I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Nielsen. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Item 4 is community comment. Is there any community comment tonight? Okay. All those who would like to make community comment are asked to come forward to the table, speak into the microphone, and first state your name and address. Yeah, you can come one at a time, or two at a time, and then one speak first. Then. Hi, and your address?
7517 South Cambridge Drive, Franklin, Wisconsin. On February 14th, one of my friends in Parkland, Florida, witnessed death as a freshman in high school. She watched as her good friend and a teammate was shot in the forehead. My friend's name was McKenna. She ended up trapped in a closet with a faulty lock. She felt very unsafe that day and has haunted each and every day since. She was the last group escorted out of the building by the police, but was she the lucky one? Yes, she survived. However, she was a witness to a horrific day in our country's history. 3 of her good friends and a teammate was shot in the face in the Parkland shooting. Parkland was supposed to be a place where children were supposed to feel safe. Students, teachers, football coaches, cross-country coaches all did not survive this shooting. These 17 individuals that McKenna knew had nowhere to go, they had nowhere to hide. The places they ran, they were found dead. Okay, so now let's think of my situation. I'm in class. For most people, it's a normal day in high school. But my story is different. Last Monday, stories of threats had surfaced through our school and the police were present. And I was told a male student had been arrested. Social media was frantic and more stories came out about the school threats in the hit list. Nothing was discussed by the staff. Tuesday, I entered school very scared, wondering where I would go and what I would do if there was an active shooter in the building. I thought about McKenna and her sister Logan all day. Each class, we asked the staff about what was emailed, and I quote, "We heard a minor incident." Later that day, the fire alarm sounded. I looked at the person next to me, not knowing my next move. I grabbed my friend's hand and froze. My teacher was yelling at us to just run. We sprinted for the doors. Fear. Fear was everywhere. I had no phone with me. The people were calling their parents, and I was yelling to a friend and waving her over so she could call my mom and tell her I loved her because I didn't know what was going to happen next. The next day, almost 600 kids at Franklin High School did not show up because of this fear. Families were discussing this hit list, and students were pulled from classes. Students were freaking out because earlier that week, we were told that one of our very own was handcuffed, arrested, and escorted out of the building. Students passed around his word, "There are more of us. Maybe someone is hurting. Let's help this individual, but let's also protect the 1,600 students and staff in our building." Now imagine how you would feel. Pretty unsafe, right? I know I feel unsafe and very scared. I don't know if I can trust the person sitting next to me anymore, and I don't know if the person looking into our solid glass room has a gun. I am unsafe and I am scared. I can't even imagine how I'd feel hearing a gunshot, watching my best friend die in front of me, watching my teacher try to save my life. I am scared to take a step into school every day, and that's not okay. Even though our parents were told, and I quote, no credible sources, more than half of the student body and their families did not believe the administration. Even worse, they left the students out. No one ever emailed us. Again, no one ever emailed us. Do we have a plan? Some staff say run, hide, fight, but nothing more? What is this really gonna do for us? Not one of my teachers has told me what to do if there's an active shooter in the building. I was told by one of my teachers that she couldn't talk about it. We just had to carry on with our day or go talk to the people above her about our problems. This is not okay. You could tell this teacher was scared, and other teachers are afraid too because they can't talk about it because there's no credible sources. I don't feel safe. I don't know if the shooting will be tomorrow, next week, next month, or a school year from now. But this is exactly how the Florida shooting happened. There were no credible sources, but people from this shooter's middle school class say, and I quote a Parkland student, Emma Gonzala, it was no surprise to hear that he was the shooter. Now, are we not gonna act? Because last time I checked, we're not safe. So please, empower the staff, empower the students, and empower me. Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you.
My name is Susan Fernandez. I live at 7712 West Briarwood Drive in Franklin. You each, board members, received an email from me yesterday that clearly detailed my previous email communication and plea for active shooter training in our district back in August of 2015 and December of 2015. Let me be clear, I was a parent then of Franklin high schoolers. Now we have 3 college students and no longer have kids in the district. I am so very disappointed that I am here. I am here because I am so very disappointed. Board members back then and school board members still, at least 4 of you. The only response I received then in 2015 was from Dr. Patz. The choice was made 1 year prior, and I quote, this is a quote, the choice was made 1 year prior to observe what programs were in place nationwide that may be best for our school district or what actions we may take. That was in 2015 with plenty of school shootings prior to. Back in 2015, you had already chosen to wait over a year. At least 4 school board members were in place back then and received those 2015 emails from Jill and I, and that call to action. Since August of 2015, simple research, there have been 42 incidents of school shootings, active shooter incidents, 63 deaths, and 112 injuries. Fast forward to now, 2018. Again, you waited. Waited. No tangible actions have taken place. And I say that because the communications from the district to the parents and the Franklin Police Department to the parents cannot speak to tangible actions, plans, or precautions. I share with you the plans. In this email I sent to you yesterday, I shared with you the plans, the parent communications, the specific trainings that have taken place in our neighboring communities. The positive press they have received. Clearly, Franklin could benefit from some positive press right about now. It's time to pull in the experts now. In my educated experience, that is peaceful warriors. This was my request and plea back in 2015, and it remains the same now. Why in the world are we waiting? Years later, deaths later. To say that I am disappointed, saddened, and outraged at the fact that we are still waiting years later is an understatement. I am called to action, if only to ensure that I could sleep at night knowing that I have done what I could, if anything were to happen to any students or staff in my neighborhood and in our district. During a lunch and learn speaker today, she quoted, "You don't need a title to be a leader. Leadership is not a position or a title, it is action and example." I would suggest to you that the Franklin parents that will speak next are true leaders in our community because they are actionable.
Thank you.
My name is Jill Kine. I live at 6634 South Harvard Drive in Franklin. So I have a daughter who, I'm going to cry already. So I have a daughter who graduated from the high school in 2016, and I have a daughter who is a junior currently. I also am the program director for the girls lacrosse program. So I have an additional 35 daughters that I love as if they were my own and that are my responsibility. I, like Susan, emailed the board in 2015, and I asked you at that time to empower our teachers with dedicated, true, active shooter training. Also, like Susan, I've waited 3 years for something to happen, some real legit training, and it hasn't happened. So when my daughter says to me, my teachers tell me they don't know what to do, and when my lacrosse girls say to me, I don't know what to do, I took action, and I trained all of them in Peaceful Warriors active shooting. In my mind, that's backwards. I shouldn't be training my girls before you're training your teachers. It's backwards, and we've been asking. Last week, there was a security scare at the high school. You heard a freshman girl talk about being terrified, and I can tell you, when that fire alarm went off, one of my daughter's best friends was standing in the hallway, every door shut in that school, and she did not know what to do. She did not know where to go. No teacher reached out to grab her. They didn't know what to do. If you missed it, that's how Florida went down, with a fire alarm being pulled. Every kid in that school was mortified and terrified, and they thought it was their last day, and they were calling their parents, and they were saying, I love you, and it's wrong. As Sammy said, over 600 students didn't come to school the next day, and I think that's a pretty clear message that people are not trusting the situation. As a district, as Susan noted, we currently have major public image issues. It is not a great time for another one. It's the fact that the safety committee within the Franklin Public Schools has met only one time a year up until this year is negligent at best. This is in the time of Columbine. We're 19 years out of Columbine. There have been 200 school shootings since then. And where is our active shooter training? Where is the active shooter training? The legit from a professional, where is it? It is unacceptable, and that has got to change. Action has got to be taken. I would say to Dr. Miller, what do you want your legacy to be as the superintendent of Franklin Public Schools? What is that legacy going to look like? Now is the time. Be the superintendent who doesn't wait. Be the superintendent who takes action. And be the superintendent who empowers our teachers with the expert training they need and that our sons and our daughters deserve.
Hi, my name is Amy Weber. My address is 5977 West Forestry Court, Franklin.
And I am Lisa Brockman Martin, 9249 South 80th Street.
So I'm going to read off this or I'm going to lose my place. My name is Amy Weber. This is Lisa Martin. We both have students at Franklin High School. Last week when I spoke with the principal of the high school and asked him some pretty direct questions, I also spoke with you, Judy, and asked you similar questions. I was told by the principal that Franklin does not have an active shooter drill in place. I was told by Judy that our program is called Run, Hide, Fight, and that every classroom has this posted. As alarmed as you can imagine a parent would be when hearing that we do not have a drill in place, I asked my daughter, have you seen this posted in your classrooms? She said no. I thought, okay, it's a teenager. She may not be looking for them. I asked other students. They confirmed the same answer to me. With the communication, or the lack of, We thought, well, if the school isn't going to prepare our children, our parents, and even more importantly, our teachers for this type of situation, we certainly will. Lisa and I have taken it on ourselves to set up a workshop with Peaceful Warriors Training Group to educate and empower our children, our parents, and our teachers. Peaceful Warriors is donating 2.5 hours of a workshop for free to us. We also had a local establishment donate the facility for free. Lisa and I both tag teamed this event and put it together in 3 days. We worked our normal 8-hour day and took care of our families as well. We have the capacity to offer to this event to just under 300 people, and we know we will hit that number. In fact, we are already scheduling another session for April. In less than 24 hours, which is how long our registration link has been live, we have 100 registrations. Not surprising to us, we had an outcry of teachers from this district. And that number's growing. All the messages I have received from your teachers all say the same. Thank you. I find it alarming that Franklin District teachers and staff have not had any formal training when they are desperately needing it and wanting it. I'm not sure what Franklin is waiting for, but I empower you as a school board to make a change and effectively make it quick. Parents, teachers, and community members are no longer going to sit and wait for your email. We will make this change one workshop at a time. As parents, this is our job to empower and educate our children. Isn't it yours too?
Thank you. Can I ask how many more citizens would like to speak? Just a show of hands. Is there any objection from the board to extend the community comment?
No.
Okay, next. Hi.
Hello, I'm Jacob Romansky. My address is 9044 West Elm Court, Unit C. So, recent events at FHS. I'm a student, a junior. I would consider myself a student leader. I took part in the Lunch with Leaders get-together at the split lunch. I've attended a Gold Block meeting with Mr. Hine and other fellow students as well. And I am a student who advocates strongly for representation of all students at my school. It has come to many students' attention that they are not represented at school, people of color, and our demand as a group is that we demand that MLK Day is recognized in February, and that we have off of school, and it's a day for education. It's a day to learn about the works of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It's a day to learn about culture and history. And there's no reason why we shouldn't have it, because I know that MPS schools and Racine Unified School District as well both have Martin Luther King Day off, and there are also organizations and events going on within the city that help educate students and members of the community on what MLK Day means to many, many individuals. And we want to know why it isn't celebrated in Franklin, and why so many students aren't represented.
Thank you, Jacob.
Hi, my name is Nicole Kim, and I live on 9124 South 28th Street, Franklin. So with the recent spotlight being put on racial discrimination at our school, I want to say, as somebody who's been attending Franklin since kindergarten, this wasn't some sort of eruption at our school. With the recent spotlight being put on the media, I want to say that I feel that it's more, while the racial discriminatory acts don't display all of the beliefs at Franklin, I want to say that I think it represents the environment we've been internalizing. I do see hope in my peers. I do see hope in the persistence. And if you didn't get the chance to go to the recent local Juneteenth event, it was amazing getting to see Black culture being celebrated. But I feel that we need those with authority to push for more change at our school and to create change. And I want to say that our youth is our future. And I feel that there's a lot of oppression at our school, and we're not giving them the right environment for them to succeed. And it's been brought to our attention across the whole community, and more than that. So, yeah, I think, and to me, like, MLK Day isn't just celebrating one man. I think it's celebrating a man who served as a catalyst for the civil rights era. And, yeah.
Thank you, Nicole.
Thank you.
Mike Fossbender, 7397 Hillendale Drive. I am a teacher in Oak Creek. I am a husband to Mary Fossbender. I'm a father to Max and Danny, who went through Franklin. And I'm a little amazed that Franklin does not do anything with active training for the shooting that, you know, has gone on. We in Oak Creek do go through the Peaceful Warriors Project in my science room, and we don't have enough for each science room, but each one has tourniquets for anyone that gets shot. We are trained to put those on people. We know that the police are going to come in. We know that they are going to step right over you if you're laying on the floor, because their first job is to get the target. We know that we can pull them into our room if we can, or if they're in our room, we can bandage them, because it's not the bullet that kills. 80% of the time, it's not the bullet, it's them bleeding out. And if we can stop them, if I can save one life in my classroom, why wouldn't Franklin do that? I don't get it. So, you know, here we got a nice, beautiful building going up with glass walls inside. We've been told, and we all have our glass walls covered. So, I don't know, I just think it would be something good for you guys to do, because I wouldn't want to live with that.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Jalen Flores. My address is 7380 South Countryside Drive. I'm a senior at Franklin High School, and I also have a brother who graduated with the class of 2016. I have been attending Franklin High School since kindergarten, and my brother transferred in second grade, so I obviously have extensive knowledge on all like the racial tensions and the atmosphere at Franklin High School. I'd like to start off by pointing out the obvious. It may not be obvious to everyone in this room, but it is very obvious to me that there is not a single person of color on this board. That is something that I have learned to live with and to grow up with, that has always been surrounded me. People of my color have always had a lack of representation. I've also experienced a plethora of racial discrimination, even from students, from staff, from administration alike. Myself has, my brother has, my family has, plenty of people of color have, and I don't think that that is the overall mindset of every student, of every person in the Franklin community, but I definitely do think that it is an issue that needs to be called attention to. I obviously have noticed that there is a spotlight on it recently, but I think that everyone has been assuming that the racial tensions have just come to light because of the bubbler situation, which I'm sure we are all aware of, but that really aggravates me, because it makes me feel like all the years of struggle that I've experienced before the bubbler situation came to light has just been completely discredited, like it never happened, like it's not important to me, and that is completely untrue. I know that I live in a predominantly white neighborhood. I live just right off of 41st Street, you know, nice houses, just your typical Franklin suburban area. And while trick-or-treating throughout my life, I've been told to get out of my neighborhood, don't trick-or-treat in my neighborhood. I've been told that I've been accused of stealing things that are my own. My brother had to put his phone in a basket for one of his classes, and when he went to go collect it, he got accused of stealing his own phone. He's also been told by one of his teachers, just for using typical, not even just African American, but teenage slang, don't talk to me like I'm one of your brothers from the hood. If those things do not absolutely aggravate you to your core, I don't know what will. Those things give me goosebumps, my hands shake just thinking about it. That is absolutely ridiculous, that is not okay. And like my peers have said before me, we are here to fight for Martin Luther King, his national holiday, to be recognized in the Franklin community. Plenty of other schools have this holiday off because of these struggles, because not just of their own struggles, not just of struggles in, you know, our modern times, but of the decades-long struggles that have gone into social injustice and to the civil rights movement. It is something that we cannot ever forget. We can't forget our history, because that is when things start to be repeated, and that is obviously taking steps backwards and not forwards. I think we need to recognize this holiday as something that is so monumental, something that continues to grow us into the future, because the youth is the future, and people before us and people ahead of us are all going to push us into a greater community, a greater human being, greater mankind. You need to recognize that no matter your skin color, no matter your religion, your ethnicity, where you come from, the way you talk, the way you dress, the way you look, we are all humans. We all have emotions. We all have feelings. None of us ever want to feel like we aren't important, because all of us have value. And by just disregarding the fact that Martin Luther King is a national holiday, it's saying that people of color and people who have fought so long for this social injustice battle, it's just not important to us. I've never even recognized the fact that it's Martin Luther King Day in school, other than the fact that we say it for 2 seconds on the announcements that I hate to say not many people listen to, obviously, that's common knowledge, but beyond that, we don't recognize it, and I think that that really needs to end. And by having the day off to just think of our past and think of how great our future can be, I think that would really benefit us as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Rami Nawan. I live on 9860 West St. Stephen's Drive, Franklin. I'm here today also to be advocating for MLK Day to be celebrated in the Franklin community. Just to point out, this year is the 50th anniversary of Martin Luther King Jr.'s assassination. And when I think about the community, not only of our nation, but of Franklin on its own, it makes me wonder what he died for. Our community is more divided than ever, and like Nicole Kim had pointed out, is that this isn't something new. I've gone to Franklin Public Schools since I was in kindergarten. My sister graduated class of 2016 from Franklin High School. My little brother attended Franklin Public Schools since kindergarten, and as people of color, this is not something that has recently come up. Currently, I am the only member of my family still in the Franklin Public Schools district. My little brother left. One of the reasons was because he felt like an outsider. He left in the 6th grade right before he was going into middle school, and when I was in middle school, I experienced something that I feel like really did shape me as a person. I was basically verbally attacked quite frequently by a student who would insult me, insult my culture, my religion, my parents, and would say things like, "Go back to your country, you terrorist, go back to where you came from." And that always disturbed me, because this is where I'm from. I'm a natural-born American citizen. My siblings are, my parents are United States citizens, and when people of color are being discriminated in such a manner, it's really disheartening to think that, especially as a 13-year-old girl, to think that this is how the world is, and I just have to accept that. Throughout my years of being in the Franklin Public Schools, I've considered myself a student leader. Currently, I am the president of Franklin High School's Multicultural Club, and like some of the students before me mentioned, is that we had an incredibly successful Black History Month celebration with the Juneteenth. And we were so pleased with the outcome. So many people had attended. But when looking out into the community, a number of people had attended, both people of color and not. but it made me wonder, where is the rest of the community? We have thousands and thousands of people in our district, even if their children don't attend the Franklin Public Schools. This event was advertised to communities beyond ours, and we had people from Oak Creek, New Berlin, Hills Corners, all coming to see the sense of community that we were building at Franklin High School. Another event that I feel was not handled appropriately, like Jalen had mentioned, things have occurred before the water fountain incident, before before the local media got a hold of many of the racial tensions going on in our school. On November 9th, 2016, which was the day after the 2016 presidential election, myself and a number of my friends who are also people of color, a number of them also wear the headscarf, during our lunch period, we were verbally attacked by a student who was making very hateful comments towards us, again with the "go back to your country, you terrorists," such comments, and they were incredibly hurtful. I mean, it had been a couple of years since I had experienced such an event in school, because I had always been able to brush such comments off to the side, but when a student is making such a public scene of it and nobody is saying anything, it was incredibly disheartening. And of course, in a lunchroom full of 300 or 400 students and there's only 3 teachers, there's only so much they can hear. When I had gone, I didn't want to make a scene myself in the lunchroom, so I had decided to not really say anything, but less than 10 minutes after the incident, I had emailed administration members, I had emailed the superintendent, which at the time was Dr. Patz, and I had sent a very detailed email, including the student's name, of what had occurred. It had taken 1 week for me to even receive a response. When I did receive a response, I was pulled out of class and called down to the office of an administrator, and they had told me that this student had caused such incidents before, that this wasn't the first time. And I had a roughly 10-minute meeting, and they said that they were handling the situation. Now, from a person that was attacked in such a manner, that wasn't very the very appropriate response that I wanted to hear. I wanted an apology. I wanted that person to know that what they said was wrong. I wanted them to know that that's not okay, that that's not acceptable in our school community, and that's not acceptable anywhere. Before I had been called into the office, I had a teacher who I had had my freshman year. This incident occurred my sophomore year. I had a teacher who I had my freshman year who had emailed me and had heard kids talking about this incident in the hall. And they emailed me and said, I heard about this incident and I would like to know if anything had been done. I had replied that I had yet to hear back from the people that were higher up that I felt that would have handled the situation. And he said to me that he would not, that if nothing was handled, to come back to him, because he would not like to work in a community in which such incidents were not handled appropriately. That teacher no longer works at Franklin Public Schools. I don't know if that was the reason. I'm sure there were multiple others, but I know that it's not only students that are tired, it's teachers as well. And as the teachers often have to remain politically correct. They can't express such feelings and views, which is also incredibly disheartening to the students, because sometimes we feel like we have no one to turn to. When our feelings feel like they're being ignored, when they feel like they're just being pushed off to the side, and we're told that things are being handled. How? Personally, I'm not seeing any sort of change in which the student body is sat down and said, listen, like, this is how it's going to be. This is the action we're kind of take. I know Sammy Law before had mentioned that there is no form of communication between the administration and the students. Our parents, of course, are receiving emails. Many of us in the high school are minors, but it's important to us that we, as a collective, as a community, we also receive that form of communication, because we have no idea how things are being handled. I don't know if that student who had attacked my friends and I had been suspended. I don't know if he was given a slap on the hand and sent back to class. Um, I would just like to convey that, like, as a student population, we believe that celebrating Martin Luther King Jr. Day would not only bring unity in the community, but hopefully acceptance as well. It's the very least we could do in order to recognize the centuries long of struggle and racial inequality, and to make an effort to bring awareness that our fight is not over. And, people think that, oh, it's not happening to me, so it's not happening at all. That's incorrect. That's far from the truth. We need the support of the adults, the leaders in our community, which is you guys. There's only so much that the students can do. We are the majority, but at the same time, you guys are the leading decision for power. You can veto our motions to do anything that we say. So I would just like to say that celebrating such an event would hopefully bring more awareness to the issue, would say to our community members that we're still here, we're still fighting, and in order for us to move forward, we need to take steps to initiate a more comfortable and safe community.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Aisha Clark. I live off of 4909 West Minnesota Avenue. I am kind of fairly new to the Franklin Public School District. I started attending here in 8th grade. I'm currently a sophomore, so I guess you could say fairly new. And pretty much everything that had to be said was already said, thanks to my peers. So I'm just going to keep it short. But I just wanted to bring up an event that I remember. So as a kid, I remember like learning about my history and staring at like those black and white photos of like bubblers that said colored and for whites and restrooms of the such. And I always thought, well, I mean, like, that's the past, you know, like, that's history, like, that happened before my time. And so that's what I thought. But then, like, on the night of January 22nd, 2018, when I saw that very photo in front of me in a place that I'm fairly familiar of and have at this time felt a great deal of comfort in, you can only probably imagine like the surge of like deja vu and bewilderment that I kind of like took over me. At first I thought it wasn't realistic, and then I saw it on the news the next day. I saw it on Twitter everywhere, and I thought, wow, this is actually real. Mind you, since my freshman year, I've been seeing events like this happen, like Jalen mentioned and Ramin. This is not the first time that a very absurd event has occurred affecting not only me, but the very few African American and just people of color that attend Franklin High School. So like months prior before, I had been speaking to administrators, finding a way to better the Franklin community, not only just for me, but looking on a broadcast level of all students, reaching all ethnicities, all religion, all different types of structures. And I thought, like, am I not doing enough? You know, I spoke up. I feel personally it isn't my duty necessarily to, as a student, teach other students what they already should have been taught. You know, so like, personally I feel like, because I'm on behalf of making MLK Day more or less of an observed holiday, but more of a holiday that is obviously taken off, but not only just for the satisfaction and pleasure of having a day off of school, but honestly a remembrance, because let's be real, the reason why all of this is happening is that we forget that even though, like I said, it was in the history, it still is present. And although I feel like racism has a blanket over it, it's been covered, but it's still blatantly in front of our faces, and I just feel like we choose to ignore it for the better and just ignore the ugliness of it all. So I feel like just having MLK Day and just better educating and reminding students that even though this may not affect you personally, even though you are not Black, even though you are not Arab or a different Muslim, it still affects you and the people around you, and it still should wake like you up and like you should be still reminded that it's a problem that can affect you later on in life.
Thank you. Hi,
Hello. Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you, yes, and your name?
Hi, my name is Alfonso Lowe. I happen not to go to the Franklin Public School, and I do not live up in Franklin. I live up in Milwaukee, but
Can I still have your address?
yeah, 7020 North 43rd Street.
Thank you.
So I came to address a problem that actually happened up in y'all school district. There was a picture, as all of them said, but I came to say, like, a threat to justice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Like, they are getting threatened, so I feel like I'm getting threatened. I feel like they're attacking us, and it's probably not their fault. They probably never been exposed to, like, the right thing to do. And MLK Day, they probably don't know, like, what those things are, and even if they do, they can't get it from school. They have to go and find out by themselves. And I feel like y'all should have that, like the school district. We was brought to this situation because of, like I said, the post. Never mind.
That's okay.
I just feel like y'all should really do something about it. I actually like y'all schools or whatever. I seen the school. It's a pretty big school. But it's problems like this that makes people get pushed over the edge. If I feel like I'm an outsider up inside of my school, how do you think all the other people feel? If I feel like I'm not safe coming to school and I might be racial profiled and I might be told I'm not this and I'm not that, how do you think that affects me if I'm told that every day? You get told something over and over, guess what? You're going to start thinking it. You might be a strong person, but can't no person take something. That's like beating a dead horse. You can't take something over and over and just sit there acting nonchalant about it, acting like you don't care. That pushes people over the edge and makes them do crazy things that they might not want to do, but just at that time it seemed right. I have people been bullied. I have people that killed themselves because they have been bullied. And this is nothing less than bullying. It's just like bullying. You're basically telling me, I can't change my skin color. This is not my fault. So why? Why am I getting picked on? Why am I one of the kids getting talked about? That's not my history. I wasn't back in the day. I'm not a colored person. I'm an American. So why are you calling me colored? Why do I have to drink out of that bubbler? Why are you disrespecting me like this? Just because our skin color different, we're not different. We all bleed red, right? Exactly. So I'm coming to address this because I feel like if everybody had more exposure to different cultures, in different religions, in different walks of life, maybe we'll all be more accepted because they're not probably getting taught it. Yeah, that's what I want to say.
Thank you.
Hello.
Hi.
My name's Marty Hagedorn, 3363 North 93rd. That's Milwaukee. I'm a teacher at JMAC, James Madison Academic Campus, and several of my students are here today, as well as student activists from Youth Rising Up. And I first want to say that I'm very proud of all the youth that showed up. It's a very intimidating thing to do. So several of them, this is their first time doing this. So I'm just very proud for all of them for showing up today on time and spilling their hearts out to you guys. And just to kind of like reflect on what I've heard tonight, I think that, you know, we're not on the agenda. There's nothing like formally proposed on the agenda here today, but I think that your school district, you know, has the potential to set a very, you know, a strong, powerful precedent for other surrounding school districts when it comes to active shooter training for staff and the community, and when it comes to healing racial tensions and racial diversity and encouraging more diversity within the curriculum. I think someone in Madison told me that Madison Public Schools, Milwaukee Public Schools, Middleton Public Schools, and some random like De Pere or something public schools are the only ones that actually take off for Martin Luther King Day and treat it as a non-instructional day in remembrance of him and what he represented. And you know, we at Youth Rising Up definitely feel passionate about changing that. And you know, in light of the recent events that was reported on at the basketball game with Racine Horlick and you know, the bubbler incident and the experiences that these students are sharing, you know, every day in your wonderful school, we think that, you know, it's the least that you could do is to, you know, show at least the people in Milwaukee that are watching these news reports and talking about it in their circles that you guys are prepared to make an effort to encourage, you know, more cultural awareness and cultural diversity and do more than just acknowledge, like the state statutes say, and actually recognize some of these very important days and celebrations and events. So anyways, I just wanted to show my support for the Franklin students that showed up today, and thank you.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello, my name is Brandon Ramsey, and I stay on 103rd, 4758th Street. Basically, I'm here today to spread a message about how MPS JMAC James Madison campus is. So, I feel like our school is based on a system that is like a system that like such as food. Our food comes from trucks for thousands of miles. You gotta think like how does this food stay fresh for so long? So I feel like that is very unhealthy for us. And like this was like MLK Day, I feel like that day is representative for everybody to share a big representation for everybody as to come together as one. That's all I got.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my name is Tina Bott, and I live at 8267 South Preserve Court. Oh, wait, sorry. I just wanted to, with all the kids here, it's amazing and it's very encouraging to see that. I just have two simple comments. When things start happening, I don't feel we're proactive. Or even when things happen, we are not reactive fast enough. One of the things I noticed was last week there was a lot of information about walkouts, things of that sort. And I feel we could have, whether it's Franklin High School or middle school, we could have had a small assembly in the cafeteria, had all the students in there, and had 17 minutes of silence. I think if you encourage children to do things of that sort, or if the board encourages the administrators of the school, the principal, whatnot, gives them authority to do that, then it sends a very clear message to the students that we are being supportive. This is important. Things like these are not acceptable. Same incidences with the students that came up here and talked about the racial issues. When something like that happens, it's important not to push it under the rug. They have to bring it up. They have to have, I know I'm a little old school, we used to have assemblies. And assemblies meant, you know, national anthem, prayers, and all these other issues that the school wanted to address with the students. They would come up at that time. And we just, whether we wanted to hear it or not, whether we were taught at home or not, we learned it. And I think sometimes some of the things are not being taught at home, as we're finding out with the behaviors of what's happening. So I think it becomes a teaching responsibility. So if somebody has an issue, like one of the children here just brought up, then I think it's important to have that open discussion from the principal or whoever at a very general setting and say, hey, this incident happened at our school. This is not acceptable. It should be publicly talked about. And I feel that's not happening. Same thing with what happened last week. We should have had some sort of a thing in our schools and said, hey, you know, we're going to choose Wednesday at 10 p.m. where the recess is to take a moment to mourn the students. And we didn't do that. And hence, all these other things started showing up on public media about walkouts and this and that. So just to kind of urge the board, I think it's time, it's really trying to support our youth. They're taking an action, they're stepping up, and I feel it's our job as parents, as administrators, as everybody, to support them. Just the 2 points. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, all.
Hi.
Some of you here know me.
Oh, can I have your name and address, please?
My name is Matt Grabowski. My address is 4100 West McGinnis Drive. I am a student at the University of Wisconsin-Milwaukee. I'm going to go for law school. I have several other interesting things, and I could tell you all night about myself. But one of the things about my program is I'm history and political science. So when I speak from a position knowing everything that has happened, all of the horrific and all the good. So when I heard about this instance, and I'm talking of the January 22nd water fountain instance, I heard about it from a friend in Florida. And he called me and he said, hey, blah, 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 there's this thing in the paper about a water fountain in Franklin, Wisconsin, and the picture shows a white and a black sign. And I said, what do you mean? He's like, kind of like the old segregated signs. I said, okay. So he's like, I just wanted to check, because you're from Franklin, aren't you? I said, yeah, I am. Okay. Well, maybe it's a professor doing something crazy, but that'd be understandable. So when I started hearing about this second incident, the one in the gym against Racine Horlick, kind of got a little bit angry. And so let me just start. I had to write down notes because I couldn't remember everything I wanted to say. So let me start with leaves. Our modern and our national idea, our notion, postulates the idea that every single person is an individual, that every single person is a leaf, a brick, a rock. Every person is one distinct unit. Each leaf, by being an individual, has its own sins and its own glories, its own strengths and its own faults. Franklin High School is a branch of those leaves. This school district is a tree of branches and leaves. This community is a forest of trees, branches, and leaves. And Franklin as a whole is one forest in the multitude of the world. And yet we're being judged nationally by one leaf's actions, one leaf's fault, one leaf's sins. I'm speaking about these two derogatory and denigrative actions at Franklin High School out of the myriad of occurrences that have happened in the past. We still, to this day, seem to have not gotten rid of the bad leaves, the bad stones, the bad bricks. And we as a community have elected many on this panel in order to influence those leaves to grow brighter, those bricks to be stronger. Because we as a community understand the idea that a singular leaf can poison the tree, that a singular fault in a stone will tumble the mountain, that a building will tumble from that singular weak brick. I come before this panel, and I know I am not without sin, and I do not ever typically throw the first stone. But as a high school alumni, as a Franklin High School alumnus, I, another leaf, another stone, another brick, am being judged by this tree, by this mountain, by this building. I'm here to express my concerns. We as a nation, as a world, have already gone through innumerable amounts of discriminatory periods. Each time we say that we have learned from our discrimination, from that discrimination. Each time we say that we are beyond that discrimination, that we have surpassed it. And yet, again, here something occurs. When we as a community showcase this discrimination in national news, I am judged for it. My family is judged for it. My friends are judged for it. My aunts, uncles, and cousins are judged for it. These students and these teachers are judged for it. And this community is judged for it. This is not right. It is not fair. It is not just. But it seems to be what happens in this world. So I'm asking you for the old principles of truth and justice. I'm asking you to change something, to try a different way. It is not I who can influence the school. It is you, your actions as a panel, that can influence the principals and the teachers, the libraries with all of their books and knowledge, the computers which the students use, and create such a community as to ensure that not only the leaf grows, but that it grows brightly, morally, and rightly. I mention leaves and bricks and stones because you are the growers. You are the sculptors. You are the masons. And I do not have any influence in any way or shape or form to affect what happens at the school. I can only come to you, and only you, who do have the capability to form and change our schools into something where these things do not happen, and where the leaf is not poisoned, or where the tree is not poisoned by the bad leaf, and the mountain does not fall from the bad stone, and the brick does not fall from the bad building. I tried to figure out how to best sum this up, and so I put to you 2 comments by Mr. Thurgood Marshall, the preeminent scholar and Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. He says, "We deal here with the right of all of our children, whatever their race, to an equal start in life and to an equal opportunity to reach their full potential as citizens. Those children who have been denied that right in the past deserve better than to see fences thrown up to deny them that right in the future." He further commented, "Where you see wrong or inequality or injustice, speak out, because this is your country. This is your democracy. Make it, protect it, and pass it on." Having ended that way, does the board have any questions or comments for me?
No, we're not allowed to at this time. We're just taking comment, but we're listening to all of you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Is there any other comment? Come on up.
Hi, my name is Miracle Hudson. I live 4423 North 84th Street, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I just want to say that not only do we want you guys to acknowledge MLK Day, but we want you guys to not sweep it under the rug, because anybody can acknowledge something and just say, well, that's that. We want you guys to make it known. We're not saying make it public. We're not saying, be like, oh, well, these kids want something, so we're just going to do it. We want you guys to actually understand that we came here today because we want change. We're not just a group of people here trying to be like, well, they're being racist or anything like that, because we understand, we know. But another thing we want to talk about is that racism is everywhere, and we're not just going to be like, well, no, we're not going to talk about that. But I just want to say that everybody here is a part of something, and we came here because things need to change. We say every day that we need change, and that's what we need, and that's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Paris Tigg. I live 5922 West Helena Street in Milwaukee, Wisconsin.
Okay, I didn't hear your name.
Paris Tigg. And we would like for y'all to acknowledge racial discrimination against all colors, not just one color, black or white. We all should be equal. and everyone should be acknowledged in schools, public or not. Everyone should be treated equally, and not just one person get this or this one. We like everyone to be equal. That's all I gotta say.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is there any other comment? Any other comment? Last call for comment. Okay, just to repeat, the Martin Luther King Day comments, Dr. Miller will take that under consideration. The board does not vote on that. That is decided by the administration. We don't vote on a calendar here as the board. All the safety and school concerns, we have notes on that, so that will be discussed. So we thank you for all of your comments and appreciate you coming. So thank you very much. Yeah, would the board just like a 3-minute recess or so before we go on?
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
We can't stay open.
Okay, we're back from recess, and we'll move on to item 5, the consent agenda. Do I hear, would any board member like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lewis, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 6 is school board announcements. Are there any announcements tonight? Okay, hearing none. We'll move on to item 7, school board calendar. We have a regular board meeting Wednesday, March 14th, 2018, here at the Education and Community Center at 6 o'clock p.m., and a regular board meeting Wednesday, March 28th, 2018, here at the ECC at 6 o'clock p.m. Item 8, reports and presentations. 8A, the food service report. Mrs. Monica Hootler. Hi. Welcome.
Yeah, I'll keep this brief since you all have the report, but there are a few things that I would like to highlight. Within the last year or so, we've purchased a lot of nutritional software in the department, and as a result of that, we're able to provide the parents and students a lot more information than we were previously able to do. And so now our menus are all online, and they have links that they can view the nutritional information of all the products that we're serving. And so this has helped with the nurses, with carb counts for the diabetic students. And so it's been very well received by a lot of comments that I've received from parents. We are expanding our lines at the high school, trying to provide additional options. We've opened the ethnic line that we feature different foods from our normal menu. And so we're trying to give up the high school students a little more variety and foods that are not what they've had for probably the last 6 or 7 years. We've recently introduced yogurt parfaits and healthy smoothies, and so that's really has been really super successful, especially at the middle school area, and that's middle school and high school that we serve those. And starting at March 5th, we're very excited to introduce, it's called the Bagel Box, and it's going to be an alternative entree, which is vegetarian, that students can choose from kindergarten all the way up through the middle school. We currently have enough options, and we have 7 lines at the high school, so we initially are bringing it there. But it includes being able to go through the line and get all the choices of fruits and vegetables. But the entree is substituted for string cheese, the yogurt, and then a bagel with cream cheese. So we're hoping that that will help with not only religious preferences, but also students that really don't like that entree, and their parents are encouraging them to take the lunch. So online, we really have spent a lot of time putting nutritional information into the systems that we purchase, and so that really has taken a lot of staff time to make sure that it's accurate and that we are able to provide current information. The system allows us to change it rather quickly, so when we had the snow day, we were able to change the menu so anybody who looked online would know that we had the meal that was planned for the previous day on the day that we returned. Parents are also able to view what all their students eat, and they can see the selections they're making. They are able to put money in online. That does, putting the money on does require a fee, a service fee from the vendor. And then we also have sort of changed our in-service way that we do things. The requirements have changed by the government, and so what we did is partnered with 4 additional schools so that we could bring in some national speakers at a very minimal cost, and it's been very successful. It's like sort of taking our staff to a conference, and so we're able to get very professional people that are pertinent to the food service industry, and it's really something that's much more affordable, and we've done it for 3 years now, and our staff has thanked us that they're very thankful for it.
What kind of topics?
Staffing-
Do you take questions now or later? Or
Pardon me?
would you like us to ask questions at the end? Or
Whenever is fine.
I'm just curious what kind of topics are covered at the in-service?
Sure, we did like portion control and like proper scooping. We've done some serve safe. We've done things like proper lifting to help so that we can not have
Injuries.
workman's comp claims and things of that nature. So it's been a real variety. We've done some like a 30-minute session on like stress management and things of that nature too.
Okay, thank you.
And so then the last thing that I just wanted to talk about a little bit is staffing continues to be a challenge. I think anybody in the business world probably would agree with me that finding people who want to work and are for part-time hours is really a challenge. I anticipate that with IKEA opening up, that it's going to get worse, just because of the area that we're serving. Anywhere I go, any food service restaurant, I always see the signs out there, help wanted, and so that's, I think, going to be part of our challenge, in the future. So to help supplement this, we've developed a new employee checklist so that we can make sure that we're intervening sooner with our employees so that we can make sure that they are getting the individual attention that they need. So we give them an opportunity to also tell us what they need more training in besides what we feel that they need to work on. And so the people who need a little more attention, we're meeting with weekly with the supervisors so that we can try and prevent turnover and make them successful.
How many hours a day do the food service workers work, part-time?
Yeah, the majority of people work somewhere around 4. We did meet with them and found that a number of people really wanted a few more hours, and so we restructured the high school to be 5.75 hours for a lot of people to keep them under the 6 because we weren't sure what the regulations with government changing possibly to require under 30 hours. So that way we're able to stay with under 30 and have increased a little bit of time for the majority of people at the high school. A lot of the people at the middle school, they want the very short hours. So the most of our staff there are 3-hour employees. They just want something, come in and leave.
Okay. And then regarding our fruits, I know we're in a consortium for our, most of our food, I believe so. Our fruits, are they all canned, or do we have any fresh fruit?
We do have, fresh fruits besides canned. The ones that are canned are in their own juice or apple juice. So we don't have any sweetened in heavy syrup or anything of that nature. We did have, fresh fruits on every single day. We've cut it back to more like 3 times a week. We were finding the students were taking them and just throwing them away. The one custodian in one bag of garbage alone found 32 oranges the one time. And so they weren't even peeled. So, so we're having a balance because of the cost and also wanting to offer more fruits and that type of thing. But we do a lot of, fresh vegetables. The broccoli that we get that's frozen is, the spears are so great looking. We have purchased, they're called micro steamers, which are sort of like a microwave, and we put those in the elementary schools. And so they can steam the food within 5 minutes, and it's just so much better product than before. We had to do things on the stove and use a lot of water. So the nutrients are much better in the last year since we've been able to purchase those kinds of equipment for our staff.
And do we still have to serve a lot of beans?
We do have to do a legume every week, unfortunately, because it is not a popular item. We do refried beans when it's a Mexican type of thing, and then baked beans we try and do with a sandwich or hot dog or something like that, so it's appropriate. But sometimes we just have to have a black bean on just because we have to have it on. And the majority of our schools, that's definitely not a high participation. They're required to take at least a half a cup of fruit or vegetables, so they choose the fruit on that day, and we do plan accordingly.
And then my last question is that the 50, I think we have about 40% to 50% that aren't taking the lunches. So they are bringing the lunch. I mean, we're not letting kids leave campus, right? So
Right.
yeah.
And so, that's that used to be pretty typical at the high school. At the elementary school, our participation has dropped a little bit when the regulations changed, and we really have never come back up to the prior level. But I really attribute it mainly because I've done some research on it, and every time that you increase the cost, it decreases some of your participation. And that's a regulation in the government that we have to increase it at 10 cents every year until we get to a certain level. And my philosophy in the past had always been to try and keep the lunch prices low and rather charge for the a la carte items, because I felt that was a very personal choice. And so we started really low. So, we've had longer that we've had to catch up as far as continuing to increase prices.
Yeah, I was surprised by the participation also. It seems low, like 50% of the kids don't even take lunch. What was it before when you were?
And this is lunch, so we do have the snack shop open, like at the high school, and so we have things like the yogurt parfaits and bagels and string cheese and fruit, and we do have chips, the baked chips, but everything meets the compliance of 200 calories or less, and there's a sodium level that it has to meet, and also a fat level that it has to meet in order for us to even have it in our snack shop. So with the high school, that was fairly similar. Previously, I would say in the elementary school, we were probably closer to 70%.
When you peaked, okay.
Any other questions?
So you're finding that this food that gets thrown away, that's because the federal requirements that the kids have to take certain amount of different kinds of foods?
Some of that is, some of that the kids want to get out to recess at the elementary school, you know, when their table, all of a sudden the first kid who got there earlier is done and wants to go out, you know, they're raising their hands, and, you know, so that influences it sometimes, you know, so, you know, so there's a multiple things. You know, every year, for the last 2 years, we kept track of our entrees, and we've taken a couple of them away. The lowest participating numbers we've taken away. Our highest one continues to be the Domino's. It is a specially made pizza. It's whole grain crust, and it meets all our requirements, but that's still the #1 meal in the entire district, even when we've tried offering other kinds of pizzas to give them a choice.
Thank you very much for your report.
So I answered
Yep.
everybody's questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care, thank you. Okay. Our next item is item 8B, the District 4K program discussion with Dr. Miller, Mr. Cohen, and Mr. Reuter. I believe we have a presentation.
You have okay. So tonight, you're going to hear some information about why our leadership team is moving forward with developing a proposal for the board for 4-year-old kindergarten. So I am going to allow my colleagues to share the vast majority of the why behind this, and at the end, I'll talk with you a little bit more about process. I'll get out of the way here.
Thank you, Dr. Miller. This evening, Mr. Cohen, Dr. Miller, and I and myself will, as Dr. Miller stated, share the why behind moving forward with a 4K program in Franklin Public Schools. Franklin Public Schools prides itself on inspiring personal success for all. As you have heard at this table and throughout our schools, we are dedicated to developing college, career, and life-ready students. A 4K program in Franklin would provide rigorous academic and social and emotional experiences in order to prepare students for 5-year-old kindergarten and beyond. Tonight, Dr. Miller, Mr. Cohen, and I are going to share a brief presentation with you about the why of 4K in Franklin Public Schools and how it will set the foundation for college and career readiness and be the foundational block for inspiring personal success. We are a successful school district, and you've heard Dr. Miller express over the last 9 months that we want to get better. As you can see, the research suggests that a quality public school 4K program sets the foundation for greater success long-term in literacy and math, as well as the immediate impact it has on 5-year-old kindergarten. And throughout the presentation tonight, we'll have slides with a lot of information and research that's been conducted over the last 10 to 15 years of 4K work in the state of Wisconsin and beyond. So at any time, if you have questions about the text, we'll pause after we share if you would like us to answer at this point. Thinking beyond the 4K experience, a public school 4K program allows for an increase in rigor and expectations throughout the system. When thinking about the why of 4K, considerations as to how this benefits all students through multiple lenses is pertinent. As the research suggests, 4K results in fewer special education referrals as we have a better grasp on individual students earlier and the data to support early intervention that is needed.
In addition to the benefits on the previous slide, just related to decrease in special education referrals, there are a number of other engagement and overall success indicators that are the direct result of 4K support. You can see several things up here, including fewer referrals for remedial classes and just greater academic success across the board, greater academic motivation, on-task behavior, and capacity to work independently. As a result of all of these benefits, there was a research paper published in 2004 called The Economic Returns to the Education System from Investments in 4-Year-Old Kindergarten for Wisconsin. And that research paper specifically cited around a 68-cent return on investment for every dollar spent and invested in 4K education back to the public school district.
And what's the source of those savings?
Yeah, it's really a result of a few different things. There's a decrease in retention, so students are moving through the system rather than being retained back. It cited a number of other things, such as special education placement. If there's a decrease in students being placed into special education programming, there's a cost savings to the district there in terms of not having to pay for an increase in that programming. And then also, there was an interesting piece related to overall job satisfaction of teachers and greater retention of teachers and things like they found greater rates of essentially less sick days that teachers were calling in for as a result of higher student motivation and higher student success rates, which led to a cost savings to districts that resulted in them not having to pay for as many substitute teachers, things like that. So they took a wide variety of factors into effect when they calculated that.
Just to follow up, so what, you mentioned the fewer referrals to special ed. What happens to the early childhood program relative to 4K? Because those kids are already in school, right? They're identified through a screening process and they're in school before their peers. What happens to that group then if you have a 4K program?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. They're intervened at the 4K level, and Ms. Freeman can speak to experience in other districts as well, early childhood, and work with 4K.
Currently, we have students that are our 3-year-olds and our 4-year-olds that are participating in a self-contained program. So those students that are identified would then be serviced in a more inclusive environment, which would be the 4-year-old kindergarten class.
So would we still have the self-contained early childhood, or they would just be part of the 4K program with maybe?
Well, each placement of a student is an individual determination, but right now we don't have that option. So students that are 3 and 4 years old that need a classroom-based program have but one option in our school district currently. So a 4-year-old kindergarten class would give students the opportunity to be part of an inclusive classroom, or we could offer self-contained if we felt that that was necessary through the IEP process.
So we would still continue to have early childhood, or would we just go with 4K with special services to those that need it?
Potentially. It would be a self-contained classroom if we felt that students needed that, but I envision it would be most likely that that would be for our 3-year-old students.
So 4-year-old students would be with grade appropriate peers in a regular ed classroom like we do 5K through 12th grade.
But still early childhood programming for 3-year-olds.
3-year-olds.
Yes.
So now we have 4-year-old early childhood, that would go away and we just have.
Correct. Unless, to Ms. Freeman's point, there was a need based on the IEP and the team's determination for self-contained programming.
Okay, thank you.
Question, do we track at all for the kids coming into kindergarten, 5K if you will, who were in 4K somewhere at all?
That's a very good question, Mr. Nielsen. We had that discussion the other day at directors, and currently we don't. And we don't have there's a variety of 4K programs. So we're speaking tonight directly towards public school programs, and I'll talk about a standard adoption and what that looks like in a little bit. But we have multiple venues in our community, as well as parents who participate in 4K programming in other districts, but we currently do not track the number of students who participated in a program prior to their kindergarten experience in Franklin. But part of the work that Dr. Miller is going to speak to with process moving forward, we would engage in some of that work.
The reason why I ask is because we actually may be realizing some of these savings that you're talking about here, because you know there's a good handful, or a good percentage of kids coming in that did participate. I know my kids went to Greendale Play
Right.
School.
Yeah.
And it's probably a popular destination for a lot of kids, but, so I know there's kids that are already participating in something along those lines.
The gentleman to my right has a child that is a Franklin resident that participates in a program as well.
But I think tracking that, I mean, if this goes through, it's really going to be a moot point, but it would be interesting to, start asking that question or having that on the application or something.
Regardless if we do move forward with this and have 4K in place, parents do not have to enroll their child in our 4K programming.
And is this envisioned as a full day, half day? How do you define the 4K?
Dr. Miller will speak to next steps with some committee work that will determine 4K programming. There's varying degrees of some districts run half day AM, PM, some run full day.
So obviously, there's a number of benefits that we've highlighted just in terms of what the research has said here in the last 10 to 15 years. And as a result of that, it's no surprise that a number of Wisconsin districts, in fact, the majority of Wisconsin districts, have adopted some form of 4K programming. As of this academic year, 98.3%, or 404 of the 411 elementary serving districts in Wisconsin, offer some sort of 4K programming.
As a board, every year you formally adopt the academic standards that we hold as the success indicators for all of our students. And not unlike the other 13 grade levels that we represent, 4K does have their own set of standards that align to the Common Core. Those are called the Wisconsin Model Early Learning Standards, and you can see the 5 power domains of those standards, and I can speak briefly to what each of those mean that would help us guide and develop our curriculum and work with our students in 4K. The health and physical development standards really break down to health and development, motor development, and sensory organization. The social and emotional development standards are broken down into emotional development, self-concept, and social competence. The language and development and communication standards are about speaking and understanding, speaking and communicating, and early literacy. The approaches to learning standards emphasize curiosity, engagement, and persistence, creativity and imagination, and diversity in learning. And the cognition and general knowledge standards deal with exploration, discovery, and problem solving, mathematical thinking, and scientific thinking. And a lot of the belief around 4K is obviously there's academic success to it, but also that social emotional piece. There's a heavy emphasis on play and socialization, and for most of these kids, it's their first time away from home. And being in a half day or whether it be a full day program, really understanding how to interact with others that are maybe not in their family and come from different backgrounds than they do, and that emphasis on play and activity and how we work together socially. So we wanted to share with you kind of the overview of why we feel 4K should be a foundational piece of our district moving forward, what the research suggests about the long-term effects on it, what we would teach and educate around that, and Dr. Miller is going to kind of talk about next steps as a district.
So I don't have a lot to say, particularly right now, so this will be fine standing here. So the first step is to establish a collaborative committee. So what we'll do is we'll put together a group of administrators, parents, I'd like board members to be involved as well, and some community members to work together to develop the proposal that we ultimately will bring to the board. So the other thing that will happen, that the collaborative committee will work on, is receiving input. So what we want to do is we want to do be heard sessions where we invite the community, come in, and we can share with them what our thinking is about 4K, and they can share with us what they think about 4K. And then we're also going to do a parent survey. All of that will come together in a proposal that would be brought forward to you as the board, which would include all of the background, including enrollment numbers, projected enrollment numbers. It would describe the structure of the program, half-day, full-day, wraparound services, all of those pieces. It would describe the curriculum, that would describe transportation as it relates to 4K and the financial impact. So all of that would come to you as a proposal. So the timeline for that would be next October. So it was my intent to have the board then look at that proposal next October. If we are going to have 4K in September of 2019, we need to make application to the Department of Public Instruction prior to April. So that gives the board from October essentially to, I would say, March to ultimately make a decision. We would have really to need more time than that in order to actually register and get kids ready for September. So that's the tentative timeline and the aspects of the proposal that will be coming to you.
Will grants still be available?
I believe the grants are still available, yes. I have the application right here in this file, so we fully intend to apply for the grant associated with this.
And what about space? You haven't said anything about.
Yep, that would be part of the structure, like how we would implement that within the school district. So I believe Ms. Evans is going to be working with the board on who would represent the board as part of the collaborative committee. And Mr. Cohn and Mr. Reuter, excuse my back, will work with me to get the rest of the members together.
Yeah, I would want to know what board members would want to be interested in. It wouldn't be Mrs. Bukowski or myself because we're on the current committee tomorrow. Yeah. So unless there are no other board members interested. So if you have an interest, let me know. And these meetings would not be necessarily during the day, correct?
Not necessarily. It would be what would work best for the team as a whole.
Okay. And your parents that you'll have on the meeting, on the committee, will there be citizens who are not parents? There'll be some citizens who are.
We'll certainly attempt to get someone who represents the community who doesn't have children.
That's what I meant to say, not
Right.
parents, but citizens as a whole, stakeholders.
Of course. Any other questions? It's coming your way. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next is 8C, the Forest Park Construction Report. Mr. Milzer.
There's been a lot of progress since our last meeting, or last time I talked about it. You can really see a lot of areas that are getting taller out there. The walls are going up. In the music area, most of the walls are up. They're putting trim around the inside of the windows. They're spraying the vapor barrier on and putting the roof joists over. And next week or the week after, they'll start with exterior brick in that area. And in the gym, the welders are up there welding the roofing panels together. And then kind of scattered around the rest of the site, the masons are working wherever we have masonry walls going up. So the stairways that go 2 stories, the bathroom areas, and some of the interior walls where they're load-bearing have masonry walls. So they're working on all of that coming together. And we have, excuse me, new pictures going up on the website by the end of the week. And we were able to get a drone up there, and we have new pictures showing. And you can really see the outline of the building with the concrete floors poured. And then it's starting to rise in different places, and you can see all of the rooms in the music area and around the gym. So it's really starting to look like something, like a building, like a school. And the nice weather is helping. The masons have been out there really going at it. It's amazing how fast the walls can go up when they're unencumbered by being in tents and all of that kind of thing. So it's an interesting process to watch.
And how's the drainage plan working?
The drainage plan is working.
See some water in the right places?
Yep, the water is in the right places. We did have some complaints the other day when the ground was completely frozen and we had horrific rains and the snow was melting. There was just even the little slice of our property and the road water coming off was more than you would think, I guess, or more than that homeowner would think would have been there at that point. But it's one of those things where everything we had was working. You could see the level going up in our retention ponds, although it didn't come close to the top. And since then, you know, the ground has thawed out a bit, and it's kind of all gone away.
I was with Mr. Milzer this week. We took a walk. It was quite mucky out there. And then that afternoon, I spent some time at Forest Park. And what was really striking to me is just the size of the rooms. Like the band room essentially is there, and just the space that our students are going to have is so much better, so much improved than what we have. And then, of course, the gym structure, I stood in there, and then I went back to Forest Park, and it's going to be really fantastic for the kids. The space is going to be wonderful, so it's exciting.
And looking at the drone 360 there, it just looks really small, but it was really interesting to look at it that way.
Sometimes if you've ever built a house or something, the rooms look kind of small at first, till you get furniture in them. These rooms don't look small to me, so.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Okay, and then item D is the CISA 1 Programs and Services 2018-19. I always say I just feel so fortunate to be on the Board of Control for CISA 1. I just think it's just such a good group of people. And I just thought I'd bring you this catalog, just not to look at here, but at your leisure, to take a look at it, just to see all the services that CISA 1 provides the school district if you're in need of these services. And some of the ones you might want to check out are the grant writing services, or the McKinney-Vento Homeless Education Assistance Service is a consultant, is a new one they're providing this year. And I don't believe we're going to use that in our district, but there are a lot of districts that don't, bless you, that don't have a consultant. So that was a really popular service to have for some of the school districts. There are a lot of personalized learning opportunities and staffing solutions. And another one that's new this year that they have is on page 46, the Middle School Alternative School for At-Risk Students program. And you just wouldn't think that middle school would need an alternative school, but it's something that they found they really need now. So it's just a lot of programs that they're offering, and I think it's something you might want to take a look at. And then I did put the page in of services that we're using right now, just for you to see. But I know Dr. Miller does go once a month to CISA 1 and meets with the superintendents, and I believe Mr. Cohn and Mr. Reuter do go to CISA 1 quite often too, don't you? With, I think, for personalized learning.
We have a cohort of teachers.
Yeah, that's right. So that's all I wanted to do, is provide you that booklet. And item E is the treasurer's report, and it's available in the board docs library. And then we'll move on to item 9, the school board liaison reports. We have personnel and policy, policy 6430, services for children with disabilities. It's an action item. Mr. Lewis.
Thank you. So the last time this policy was updated was 2002. As you can see, the policy edits bring that policy up to code with the Wisconsin Administrative Code regarding services for children with disabilities. With that said, I don't know, Ms. Pierman, if you have anything to add, but the edits are fairly straightforward with updates to the verbiage relating to emotional behavior disability and significant development delay and other specific learning disabilities.
Yes, also left off that list inadvertently is intellectual disabilities. So what you see are, there were changes that occurred when IDEA was reauthorized in 2004, which is the federal law that governs special education services. So when that law changed, Wisconsin moved to realign our administrative rules to reflect the changes in the federal law. So those happened in 2010 and 2015. And so along with that were rule changes and name changes to the disability areas. So this document updates the changes that occurred. For example, learning disabilities was changed to specific learning disabilities. Emotional disturbance was changed to emotional behavioral disability. So changes just to the names and to the criteria that's used to allow students to participate in those programs.
So with that, I'll make a motion to adopt the updated board policy 6430.
So we have a motion by Mr. Lewis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Larson. Any discussion?
So are you saying it's going to be not exactly what we're seeing in front of us? There's going to be an additional?
There's one additional word that would be added, which is intellectual disability.
There was no prior reference in the previous language to that?
The word cognitive disabilities was struck and is replaced with intellectual disabilities, so.
And do you see anything significant about swapping out learning disabilities or specific learning disability versus learning disabilities? What's the significance of that?
The name change wasn't significant. The rules that accompanied that change in name were significant. We used to use a significant discrepancy as the criteria for enrollment, so students had to show a discrepancy between their intellectual functioning and their academic functioning. And now we use the response to intervention process to identify students. So it was a pretty significant change.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay. Next is item B, board liaison reports. Do we have any liaison reports?
No, I think, I did attend the Franklin Foundation board meeting, and they did have their event, the fashion show. Mr. Ryder,
yeah.
you want to, I did not make the fashion show, but you want to, was it good? Was it well attended?
I was participating. Dr. Miller was in the audience. I would refer to her.
It was good.
It was a lot of fun. It was
A lot of
very,
people. It was
very
sold out. It
well
was
done.
great.
Oh, it was sold out and
Yeah,
well
it
done?
was fun.
That's good to hear. And they also, I want to remind you that they have restaurant opportunities every month. Check their website, you can participate if you're going out to eat anyway. And they had a change in leadership. They're going to have a new president, vice president, so they're continuing to roll along. So that's good to know that there's interest and leadership is stepping up. New people are coming on board. So I think it's all good. I'm not sure if this is the place for this, but I did attend the event at the high school, the multicultural event. Janet, you did attend that also, and
Dr. Miller?
I thought it was
Yeah.
well done. It was high energy and informative and a very warm, fun event, and well attended. I thought well attended.
It's very good. Okay, and then next we'll move on to school visits. On February 15th, it wasn't really a school visit, but Mr. Lewis and myself, and then Mr. Royer, I'm trying to think of it, and Mayor Olson attended Forest Park Middle School for an assembly of seventh graders for their U.S. history class, and the students did a question and answer period about how officials make decisions, and it was very well done by the students. They asked some really good questions. And Mr. Lewis, do you have any comments on it, or Mr. Reuter?
I thought it was great that we ran out of time, which is always a good sign.
Yeah, we did. That is a good sign to run out of time.
What was the best question asked? I was like,
Best question. Wow.
They asked us how we make decisions that are knowing it's going to affect many people and still trying to make everyone happy. So we all look to the mayor for that response.
I don't know if they had, I didn't know if there was any best, they were all good questions.
all
They were
good,
just
okay.
well thought out. Yeah. Any other school visits? All right, then item 10, I'm looking for a motion to enter into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State Statute 19.85 sub 1 sub E to discuss negotiation strategy regarding a land purchase. Do I hear that motion?
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Lewis. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Witkowski. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, can I have a roll call, please?
Yes. Mrs. Larson.
Aye.
Mr. Lewis.
Aye.
Mrs. Evans.
Aye.
Mr. Nielsen.
Aye.
Mrs. Witkowski.
Aye.
And I say yes.
Motion carries, 6-0, 1 absent. Okay, we are back in open session at 8:35. And we are on future agenda items. Item 11, we have Human Resources Report, Health Insurance and Employee Wellness Update, March 14th. We have the Middle School Planning Report, March 14th. 2018-19 Preliminary Budget Information, March 14th. Youth Options Requests, March 28th. Any Technical Education Scholarship Approvals, March 28th. Financial Literacy Report, March 28th. Any other items? Okay. And item 12, School Board Meeting Debriefing. Any comments?
So after hearing all the community comments, we just assume you're going to handle all that? and-
Right. I've took copious notes throughout, and I will certainly be sharing much of this with our safety committee and with our school administrators.
And we'll communicate back to the board on what.
Right, I'll be in communication with the board as to what we're planning to do moving forward.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion by Mrs. Larson, second by Mr. Nielsen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We are adjourned at 8:37.